The most exciting thing about virtual reality is its ability to transport us to a new environment. And for most users, a pair of hand controllers is more than enough to feel completely immersed in another world. But really, we've only just scratched the surface for what a completely immersive virtual reality experience can be. And a lot of companies are producing peripherals that aim to increase that sense of immersion, including the gadget I'll be talking about today. This is the SubPac M2. And it aims to connect you to your entertainment like never before. But what does it do? And more importantly, does it really make virtual reality feel more real? Well, let's find out. To start with, let me tell you a little bit more about the company that created the M2. SubPac is a bunch of audiophiles aiming to revolutionize the way we experience movies, music, and games by adding physicality to the sounds that we hear. They believe the physical dimension is a huge part of any entertainment experience, yet it's one that's missing from a lot of them. Take, for example, your favorite Michael Bay movie. It's hard to argue that experiencing 2 hours of massive explosions in a theater with a massive sound system that's able to rattle your bones is a lot more enjoyable than watching it on your laptop. So what if there were a way to feel those explosions or the thumping of an EDM track without having to go to a movie theater or a music festival? SubPac set out to solve that problem, and after a successful Kickstarter campaign and some advancements in their own technology, they have created the M2, their premier personal subwoofer backpack. Get it? Subwoofer, backpack, SubPac. Super clever stuff. On screen right now are some of the reactions that my friends and myself had after trying this thing out for the first time.
Oh my god, this is sick though.
Holy shit.
So it's basically like a subwoofer on your back.
Basically, yeah. This is pretty crazy.
It's a pretty big testament to how impressive this piece of tech is. But this is a VR channel, so the question still remains, does this human rumble pack really improve the immersion you feel in a virtual reality experience? Well, simply put, yes, but unfortunately, in my time with testing it, I found that the M2 really doesn't have that many games that benefit as much as you'd expect from being able to feel the bass. It's one of my main criticisms about this as a VR peripheral, and I'll get into that in more detail later on, but first I want to tell you about the times where it is incredible. First and foremost, using this thing with games like Audio Shield is truly amazing. In a game where music is the star of the show, the SubPac absolutely shines, and is easily one of the coolest VR experiences I've had to date. Being able to feel the bass really does improve the immersion, and it makes you experience VR in a way that I had never even considered possible. Another really great example is Space Pirate Trainer, where the combination of gunfire and techno music is an absolute treat. As you could probably imagine, games with big explosions and gunfire also benefit from using the M2, however, to a slightly lesser extent than you might expect. The beefy bumps with every pull of the trigger really does feel cool, but it doesn't do as much to improve the immersion as you would maybe hope for. Games with great sound design like Robo Recall and Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades are really great, and using the SubPac is a blast. However, going back to that main problem that I had, a lot of the times in VR games, sound design is one of the last things that's thought about. And with sound being such a low priority, you don't really gain that much from using the SubPac. And that is the heart of the biggest problem that I have with the SubPac as a VR peripheral. It's only as good as the game that you're playing, and with the current offering of VR titles being pretty rough around the edges, to say the least, it's a serious challenge to find a game that warrants breaking this thing out. Now, this problem might not be as big of a deal later in the future with games like Fallout and Doom coming out, and with the fidelity of most games in general just increasing in VR. However, on the other side of that coin, there are a lot of games that have great sound design that still don't benefit from using the SubPac. Games like Job Simulator, Rec Room, Gorn, Just in Time Inc., Rick and Morty, the list just goes on, and these games really don't benefit at all from using the SubPac. Personally, if I'm gonna drop over $300 on a VR peripheral, I'd want it to make a majority of my games a more immersive experience, rather than just a select few. Then again, I also see people dropping hundreds of dollars on rigs that make games like Elite Dangerous and Truck Simulator more immersive, so to each their own. But I don't know, it's up to you to decide whether or not getting this would be a good bang for your buck. And while the lack of games to play on the M2 isn't really a criticism of the device itself, it is by no means a flawless peripheral. Generally speaking, the user experience is great. The M2 is super easy to set up, like I said, thanks to the Bluetooth connectivity. The pack is incredibly light and ergonomic, And a single charge of the battery can last up to 6 hours, with a typical charge for me lasting around 4.5. The M2 is really sleek too, and while I don't think I'll be going out for a run or to the gym with this thing strapped to my back, as the video on SubPac's website might make you believe, I think you could do a lot worse in terms of what it looks like, because considering all the technology that is actually stuffed into this little thing. That's not to say that there aren't any issues though, and I ran into a couple of annoyances during my time using it that you should definitely know about. First, and probably most annoying for me, was how hot this thing gets after extended use, especially in VR. Now, due to how tightly the pack is attached to your body, as well as the somewhat poor ventilation, you're going to feel like a hand warmer is stuck to your back after using this thing in VR for about 15 to 20 minutes. It's definitely less noticeable if you're just sitting around listening to music or playing a game with a controller on your couch, but if you're flailing your arms around in VR, this thing really does start to heat up and it gets pretty uncomfortable. As someone who already sweats buckets in VR, I found myself needing to take breaks a lot more frequently than I would have liked, or to just continue playing without the SubPac on at all. This heating problem might not be an issue for you if you have a well-ventilated play space, but for me, it was definitely a factor in how much I used it. Another thing that might be a deal breaker for you is your inability to use wireless headphones while using your SubPac. Apparently the Bluetooth connection is 1-to-1, so that means if you're using your phone will only be connecting to the SubPac, meaning that if you have a pair of wireless headphones, you will just not be able to use them. Now, if you have a really high quality pair of headphones, they're most likely going to be wired anyways. However, as we are shifting to a more wireless future and wireless headphones are becoming a lot more popular and a lot more common, this thing might not even be compatible with the headphones that you have come 2-3 years down the line. Which I guess kind of brings me to my final thoughts on the M2 as a VR peripheral. I think if you could see yourself getting a lot of use out of the M2 in your music and your movies and VR, then the $350 price tag is a lot easier to swallow, seeing as you're going to be able to use that across a lot of different media. However, if you're looking at this from purely a VR peripheral standpoint, I think that there are a lot better value propositions out there that will give you more immersion or more comfort or more enjoyment out of your VR experience than you could get for $350 with the M2. Something like the Vive Deluxe Audio Head Strap or the Knuckles that are coming out soon, in my opinion, will improve your VR experience in every game rather than just the select few that the SubPac improves it with. Again, it's not really a criticism of the device itself. I just don't think as a purely VR peripheral that it really justifies the $350. But everyone's different, and again, it is a really cool product, so if you still believe that it will improve a couple of your games that you play all the time, then sure, grab it. It's really, really cool, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. And that about wraps it up. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like and a comment, letting me know if you want to see more of these more in-depth hardware reviews rather than just software reviews on my channel. I had a really fun time trying this out and making this review, so I really hope it helps you make a decision on whether or not you're going to buy this. If you haven't already, be sure to click this button right here to subscribe to my channel for more VR stuff, and if you want to check out some of my other videos, you can click the links right there. All right, that about does it for me. Take it easy, guys, and I'll see you next time.